So before I start this video review, I just want to let everyone know that I'm trying out a new format. I've been relatively unhappy with the video quality of the live action parts where I am talking directly into the camera, so I'm going to try something a little bit different. I was inspired by other YouTubers who use a graphical representation of themselves in lieu of a live action part. So the next few video reviews will probably have this graphical representation of myself, which is the little chibi guy that you see all over the logos. I hope this can make editing the videos a lot easier and also make it of a higher quality as well. So that's it for the little update here, and let's get on with the actual review. I'm getting to get tired of the virtual MMO trope just because of the sheer number of shows that use this setting. It's one of the reasons that I have not watched the current run of RE0, even though I know I'll probably like it. So this is a long way of saying that this will be my last virtual MMO anime review for a significant length of time. However, my attitudes toward the genre have not dampened my enjoyment of the show that I'm reviewing this week. Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash turned out to be a highly enjoyable show that had a slightly different take on the genre. I'm Banana Owns, and this is an Otaku Youth anime review. Grimgar follows a group of people as they try to adapt and survive in a fantasy world. Scores and scores of people arrive without explanation with none of their memories intact. Most people are recruited to join a defense force, which keeps the realm safe by taking on various monsters. It is apparent that these groups of people were originally from a modern world, given the slight references tossed in, but the overall mystery is never explained during the series run. The main party consists of leftovers, basically the losers that were left to their own devices after everyone else partied up. The show focuses on how they deal with their newfound situation. At first, these people are utterly hopeless. Despite each member receiving training from the various guilds in town, they can't even defeat the lowest of monsters, with a very real chance of death for failure. Naturally, the show follows this group as they manage to get better, which does take some time. That leads me into a discussion about the pacing of the series. It's a relatively slow burn. The story takes quite a bit of time to reach its zenith. There is a plethora of musical montages and moments of a similar nature that slow the pacing of the story, but I enjoyed this aspect. The story takes time to immerse the viewer in the characters. When the larger events occur, this has more of an emotional impact as a result. Seeing their slow rise along with the constant fear of death creates a rather tense atmosphere as they venture out. The slowness of the town scenes alleviates this tension and fosters a relationship with the characters. Overall, this is an underdog story with a slow pacing, but the pacing makes the story even better. A great strength of this show is the interaction between characters. The show does an excellent job at showcasing the inner workings of each member of its main party. I don't want to get into every member of the main party, but I would like to discuss two of the main characters. Haruhiro receives the most amount of time, and his inner monologue is often heard. He is the character that receives the most amount of change as the series progresses. Initially, he starts off relatively shy, but quickly becomes more reliable as his party needs him more. His story arc revolves around him becoming a leader of sorts that the group can turn to in a time of need. This extends to his support role in combat as well. As a thief, he often takes a supplementary role in battle, working in tandem with his party members. It's also refreshing to see a rather well-adjusted character. He obviously has his own mix of fears, but he manages to not let it bring him down as what is common in other anime. Minato is the de facto party leader. Despite being a priest, he managed to take a more involved role in combat, which echoes his status as the leader. Even though the group manages to be relatively weak, he possesses an innate skill to plan and use his party members' strengths accordingly. Despite his strong facade, there is a deep level of worry within Minato. He doesn't show it, but his status as party leader terrifies him at times. He is one of the more interesting characters until Mary is introduced in the later half of the series. Overall, the interactions between the main characters are a strong highlight of this series, but note that Haruhiro does get most of the spotlight. It is quite apparent from the first second of the show that it possesses an amazing stylistic choice. All of the backgrounds are in a watercolor motif that makes every frame of animation look like a watercolor painting of some sort. This stylized nature carried throughout the entire run, which makes this one of the more visually impressive shows in a pure stylistic sense. As for the proper animation, it is of a good quality. The fight scenes possess an impressive amount of fluidity and are excellently choreographed. I also really enjoyed the character design, specifically the outfits worn by the characters. The armor is practical. The roguish characters use a form of leather armor while the tanks use a heavier metal. It's refreshing to see armor that isn't there just to look cool or provide fan service. Although there is some fan service here, but it isn't solely because of the clothing design. Grimgar possesses unique backgrounds and excellent character design which make the animation stand out immensely. Music plays a large role in this series, especially during the slower moments. Insert songs are used quite frequently to a great effect. My favorite of these being a montage that takes place in the town marketplace. It's a great moment which highlights the strengths of the slow pacing that I mentioned earlier in this review. As for the voice acting, I really enjoyed the performances. Nothing really stood out to me, but each one reached a certain standard of quality. Overall, the sound design is the weak link, but it is by no means bad. Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash will not blow anyone away. It instead takes a rather subtle approach with a very oversaturated genre. The story and characters drive the show to be something more than just a show with a certain stylistic animation choice. The watercolor motif adds a lot to the viewing of this show though. It creates a sense of wonderment out of these slower paced scenes simply through the art. As for the sound design, there are a lot of insert songs that are enjoyable, but no performances that stand out. I give Grimgar of Fantasy and Ash my watch rating. It's well worth it. Thanks for checking out this feature, and I'll be back next week for another.